Okay, welcome. In this video we're going to look at solving absolute value equations. Now if we recall that whenever we have absolute values or simple absolute value equations, that we have two solutions when the absolute value of x equals a positive number. We have one solution when the absolute value of x equals 0, and we have no solutions when the absolute value of x equals a negative number. So let's start with our first example. We're saying the absolute value of x plus 1 equals 4. Okay, so let's understand what this equation is telling us. Okay, we're having some x value, we're adding 1 to it, then we're taking the absolute value of that sum, and we better get 4. So the very first thing, whenever we're dealing with absolute value equations, whenever you see absolute values, a variable and equal sign, I mean we have an absolute value equation. So the first thing you want to ask yourself is, are we going to have two solutions, one solution, or no solutions? Okay, good. So in this one we're going to have two solutions because we equal that positive 4. What that means is, well, there's going to be two values of x that are going to make this true. Okay, now why don't you try and think through this one and try and just find those two values of x before we really tackle how to do these problems algebraically. So take a moment, try and find both values of x, because we know we have two solutions. Okay, well the easiest one, is x equals 3, because I know 3 plus 1 is 4, and the absolute value of 4 is 4. Now we need to find the other one. Okay, so x equals 3 is one solution. We can see that right away. It's very simple and straightforward. But we have to figure out that other value of x. Okay, it's not negative 3 because negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2, and the absolute value of negative 2 is positive 2, not 4. We want to get 4. So what is it? Well, let's think through this. Okay, I know I'm taking the absolute value of something and I'm getting 4. Well, 3 plus 1 is 4 and the absolute value of 4 is 4. Well, I also know the absolute value of negative 4 is 4. So in my mind, I want to think, how could I get x plus 1 to equal negative 4? What does x have to be so that x plus 1 gets me that negative 4? Okay, it's not negative 4 because negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3. The absolute value of negative 3 is positive 3. So you keep playing around until you get it. And once you do practice with these, you'll get these very quickly. Okay, so if you haven't thought of it already, it is negative 5. Negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4, and the absolute value of negative 4 is the positive 4 that we want. So our solution here is x equals 3 and x equals negative 5. So let's work through this problem algebraically. We now know what the solutions are, so we should know if we work through it correctly. Let's just work through this problem so we can tackle some of the harder ones that we encounter. So when I see this problem, we notice two solutions. Okay, and we have two solutions because the absolute value of 4 equals 4, and the absolute value of negative 4 also equals 4. So these are the two things that you just keep in the back of your mind. I know the absolute value of 4 is 4, and I know the absolute value of negative 4 is also 4. So what this really means is, I want to get x plus 1 to equal 4, because then I'd be taking the absolute value of 4. And this is where we got x equals 3. If we just subtract 1 from both sides. Now likewise over here, I want to try and get x plus 1 to equal negative 4, because I'd be taking the absolute value of negative 4 to get my positive 4. So I can get this inside to equal negative 4, I'd get my other solution, because I'd be taking the absolute value of negative 4 to get positive 4, subtract 1 from both sides again, and we get x equals negative 5. Okay, and these are our two solutions. 3 plus 1 is 4, absolute value stays 4. Negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4, absolute value makes it positive 4. So these are the two answers that we got from before as well. Yeah, let's try one more together, and we're just going to start strictly algebraically. Okay, so let's do the absolute value of x minus 3 equals 1. Now you probably found one solution already, and maybe even both, so let's just go through it quickly. So the first thing we notice is that we're going to have two solutions again, because we equal 1. Again, we're trying to find what value of x is going to make this equation true. We know there's going to be two possible values because we have the absolute value that equals a positive number. So let's find both of them. So again, our thinking is, if I could get x minus 3 to equal 1, I'd be taking the absolute value of 1, because the absolute value of 1 equals 1, and the absolute value of negative 1 also equals 1. This is how I get my two solutions. So my first goal is, how do I get x minus 3 to equal 1? Well, I solve this, I add 3 to both sides, and this is what you probably saw right away, that x equals 4. Okay, the little bit harder one is, how do I get x minus 3 to equal negative 1? Well, same process, I add 3 to both sides, and I get x equals 2. Okay, 4 minus 1 is 3, absolute value, 4 minus 3 is 1, the absolute value is 1. 2 minus 3 is negative 1, absolute value is positive 1, so these are my two solutions. Okay, not a whole lot of work, and once you get good at this, all of this is really just mental math, especially if you're good with your negatives. So why don't you try a few on your own. So copy these down, press pause, and press play when you're ready to check and go over it. Okay, the first one, two solutions because we equal a positive number. So the absolute value of 10 is 10, and the absolute value of negative 10 is 10. So I'm trying to get x plus 6 to equal 10. That's when x equals 4. I'm also trying to get x plus 6 to equal negative 10. That's when x equals negative 16. So those are my two solutions, x equals 4 and x equals negative 16. My second equation, again, equals a positive number, so I have two solutions. So I'm trying to get 5 minus x to equal 2. And that's just obviously when x equals 3. Because 5 minus 3 is 2. And I could also get 5 minus x to equal negative 2. Again, that's when x equals 7. 5 minus 3 is 2, absolute value is 2. 5 minus 7 is negative 2, absolute value is positive 2. Okay, this last one, two solutions again, because I know the absolute value of 7 is 7, and the absolute value of negative 7 is 7. So I'm trying to get, how could I get 2x minus 5 to equal 7? I add 5 to both sides, 2x equals 12, divide by 2, and I get x equals 6. Okay, again, I'm trying to get 2x minus 5 to equal negative 7, because if I get to equal negative 7, I'd be taking the absolute value of negative 7. Okay, add 5 to both sides again, 2x equals negative 2, divide by 2, and I get x equals negative 1. Okay, very simple. So try 3 more so you get the hang of it. Okay, first one, a little bit different because this one we're only going to have one solution. So let's find it. Okay, the only time we're going to get 0 is if we take the absolute value of 0. So 6 minus 2x simply has to equal 0. That's when x equals 3. Okay, this next one, we're going to have two solutions because it equals 10. So we know the absolute value of 10 is 10 and the absolute value of negative 10 is 10. So I'm trying to get 3x plus 4 to equal 10. Okay, I subtract 4 from both sides. I get 3x equals 6. Divide by 3 and I get x equals 2. It's one solution. My other one, this is where it helps to understand how to do it algebraically because chances are we can't do this in our head. Okay, we were trying to get 3x plus 4 to equal negative 10. So we subtract 4 from both sides. 3x equals negative 14. Divide by 3, we get x equals negative 14 thirds, which is negative 4 2/3. Again, a harder number to just kind of pull out of nowhere, which is why we want to figure out how to do it algebraically. Okay, and this last one, hope you didn't spend too much time on it because the first thing you should realize is that there are no solutions because it equals a negative 4. So you shouldn't have bothered doing any work. Okay, if you need more exact practice, refer to some of the other online resources or the textbook or packet.